Welcome back to another episode on me channel. This is going to be probably a very long episode because I got 3 stories to tell you. The End of an Era 2, 3 and 4, the 3 sequels, Living in London, Getting Ready and School's Out from the End of an Era series, which I read the original book on the last videos I did. Now we're going to read the sequels, the 3 sequels. So hopefully you will enjoy. So the cast is the same. The cast stays the same for these 3 remaining. The cast stays the same from this. The cast is the same in these 3 remaining stories. So we're going to start with The End of an Era 2, Living in London. Okay, so the cast is obviously the typical cast from The End of an Era. The returning characters the returning cast from the end of an Era. Jonah O'Brien, myself, Tilly Robertson, Garima Shershan, Jode Sempala, Hamad Elahi, George Darville, Finn McCarthy, Owen Habishaw, David Gamina, Kritan Gurung, Martha Ryder, Joe Barrett, and then another Joe. Not going to tell you, and you can probably tell by the first one, Joe Robertson and Garima Robertson, the kids of me and Tilly. Well, the fictional kids of me and Tilly. And then we got Tough Luck and then these next characters are characters from my favourite show, My Little Pony, and my also own My Little Pony characters. So we got Tough Luck, a Skylander, as Twilight Sparkle, Sophie Rose again, Sophie Rose as well, Tri-Tip as Rainbow Dash, Barbella as Rarity, Chain Reaction as Applejack, Buckshot as Pinkie Pie, Enigma as Fluttershy, T-Rex as Freezeblade, Golden Queen as Sunset Shimmer, Gusto as Starlight Glimmer, Wildfire as Spy Shake, Night Shift as Kingpin as Night Shift, Pit Boss as Trap Kraken, Dr. Crankcase as Gorilla Buck, Starlight Glimmer as Screwball, Spy Shake as Cozy Glow, Night Shift as Derek Johnson, Twilight Sparkle as Ava Androkides, Applejack as Ezra Banks, Rainbow Dash as Spike, Pinkie Pie as Furry Heart, Fluttershy as Sweetie Belle, Sunset Shimmer as Crash, Freezeblade as Elijah, and Rarity as Maudie Miller. So the storyline and plot. Days after Tilly gave birth to 2 kids, Joe and Garima, her and Jonah decide to rent an apartment in an apartment building in London with Joe Sempala and Garima Shershan, where they decide to meet up with Twilight and her friends, and Spike and his friends, for the first time in 25 years. But after that night, the rooms that were rented before they got there, they were now rented by who? The rooms were rented by Hamad Elahi, George Darville, Finn McCarthy, Owen Habishaw, David Gamina, Kritan Gurung, Martha Ryder, Joe Barrett, and Sophie Rose. This was very good for Tilly and Jonah because they can spend the rest of their lives with their friends from school. You will see what happens after these events in The End of an Era 3. Enjoy the story. The actual story of End of an Era 2. In Dubai, Jonah and Tilly were messaging Joe and Garima to ask what they were going to do when Jonah suggested to Joe, why don't we rent an apartment in London or a house back in West End? Which one do you prefer? Joe said, renting an apartment in London sounds much more appealing, so we'll meet you there tomorrow. By the way, me saying an apartment in London or a house back in West End, both come true in the end. The apartment in London comes true now, but then Jonah and Tilly do end up renting a house back in West End in the end of the story, and you'll see why at the end. Joe said, so Jonah, what's your plan? To hang out here in Dubai for today and then head to our new apartment in London tomorrow. Sound good? Yeah, babe. What about Joe and Garima? They can't be left there all alone. They are only one year old. They're coming with us because, as you said, we can't leave them here alone. Even if they wanted to. But I didn't write that in the story because it's boring. The next day, Tilly and Jonah arrived in London at their new apartment with Joe and Garima. When Jonah said, guys, because this is our first day at our new apartment and the other rooms are up for rent by anyone, why don't we call some people and have a drink with them? Who? Replied Garima. Someone who we haven't seen in 25 years. Initials TAH FAS THF, which stands for Twilight and Her Friends and Spike and His Friends. What do you think? Sure, why not? Replied Tilly. In the evening, when Jonah and Tilly were putting their kids to bed, they headed back down to find out that Twilight and her friends and Spike and his friends were already down in the lobby. Twilight said, "Tilly and Jonah, we haven't seen you in a long time. How are you guys doing?" "We're doing great. We got married and had kids called Joe and Grima, and they're in bed right now, so let's have some drinks," replied Jonah. It was a long night for everyone, but at the end of it, the main six and their friends, Spike and his friends, Joe, Grima, Tilly, and Jonah, had all had a nice conversation and a lot to drink. Surprisingly, none were drunk, but the end of the night did mean that Twilight and her friends and Spike and his friends had to leave, but didn't mean they wouldn't see each other again. After it was just Tilly, Jonah, Grima, and Joe, when they heard a knock on the apartment. On the apartment building door, and on the other side were Hamad Elahi, George Darville, Finn McCarthy, Owen Habershaw, David Gamina, Chris Angurung, and Martha Ryder, who ended up being the ones who rented the other rooms, and Jonah and Tilly and Grima and Joe were really happy about it. We now move on to the end of Vanilla 3. By the way, I forgot to write Joe Barrett on my actual book, but yes, Joe Barrett was also another one who rented a room at the apartment. We are now on to the end of an era 3, Getting Ready. So, same cast, I don't need to go through it again, you already heard the cast. The storyline for plot is, there's a few points, and that's literally it for the storyline. And the storyline is plot. The story continues with, after the rooms were rented, spending time in London and heading back to West End to allow Joe and Grima to go to school 10 years later at Gordon School. The actual story, we now get into the actual end of an era 3. The next day, Tilly and Jonah woke up and found that they were sleeping in their underwear for some apparent reason, but they got dressed straight away to head back downstairs. When they got downstairs, they found Joe and Grima were just sitting alone, and they wanted to know what their kids were up to. They found out that they were getting ready to leave for the day in London, where they were going to go shopping, have lunch and dinner, and just spend time with their friends and to have fun. When they got to London, the first thing they did was find a dress for Tilly and a suit for Jonah, and a Tilly for dinner. Was find a dress for Tilly and a suit for Jonah. For dinner, and Tilly for dinner, where all of their other friends tried to find suits and dresses for dinner as well. 10 minutes later, they had picked out and bought their dresses and suits. They then went to go shopping in other shops. Jonah and Tilly also bought a dress for Grima and a suit for Joe. They headed to the Lego store where they bought a few Lego sets for Joe. Then they headed to the Disney store where they bought a few toys of Disney characters. They were of Olaf, Moana, Olaf from Frozen 2, from Frozen and Frozen 2, Moana from Moana, and Baymax from Big Hero 6. Both Joe and Grima were happy for what Tilly and Jonah bought them. All four of them went to find their friends and head to Pizza Express for lunch. After lunch, they went to a show they had booked for the afternoon. It was a new musical called Happily Ever After, about two friends that want to be girlfriend and boyfriend but can't because of their families. Basically, a mixture of Romeo and Juliet, and it's compared to musical movie West Side Story, and also the Disney Channel original movie Teen Beach Movie, which contained the movie. Actual movie title. The movie in the movie was called West Side Story, which is basically West Side Story but on the beach. And West Side Story is a beach spin-off of both Romeo and Juliet and West Side Story. After the show, they went shopping for a bit more, and then They headed to a fancy bar and restaurant, and they dance for dinner. After dinner and a dance, everyone headed back to the apartment. Sorry about you can't see my face normally. I'm trying to keep myself up, but then my thing's down here, and I don't want to, go like that and just look down. So I'm just going to look down, and you will not see me. You can't see my mouth move. You can only hear me speak. You can't hear my mouth move and speak. You can only hear me speak, because I need to read this out properly. And the only way I can do that is by not showing my mouth. Everyone headed back to the apartment where Tilly and Jonah made an announcement. Guys, we are all going back to Gordon's school to get Joe and Greema onto the waiting list. 10 years later, Joe and Greema were now just about to head to Gordon's school for year 7 because of Jonah and Tilly. Later that day, Jonah and Tilly moved into a house in West End, and it happened to be the house Jonah spent most of his childhood in. It was a mess, so it required Jonah and Tilly to spick and span up the house. They had finished making their house more nicer when the door sounded, and on the other side was Joe and Greema coming back from their start of school party and dinner. And also with them was Twilight Tilly. Tilly said, "Twi, why are you here? I'm here to tell you something cool. That will blow your mind. I booked you 2 for auditions for a new movie musical called The Journey from Reception to Marriage, starring, hopefully, Tilly Robertson and Jonah O'Brien. That leads us in to the final book of the series, the end of Era 4, Schools in Session. Obviously, that was end of Era 3, getting ready. We're now into the end of an era, Schools in Session, the final one, and the wrap-up. So, the same cast, like I said, I don't need to read them out again. The storyline and plot is obviously different, because it's a new story. The story ends with a new movie starring Tilly and Jonah, the years of school from year 7 to year 11 for Joe and Greema Robertson, the end of an era movie series looking into the future, Not My Final Gordon School and My Pony themed series story, the shock ending. On the movie set, in a secret room, Jonah and Tilly were auditioning for their parts in the new movie to Mark, the director, and his assistant director, John. In the audition, David, you are my best friend since reception, and you want to be my boyfriend. And I say, yes. Thank you so much, Sophie. I've been waiting to hear a yes from you, and now it's happened. So where do you want to go now, babe? Jonah and Tilly, that was great. What about you, John? I thought it was very good, and you guys are both born to play these roles. I think. What did you two think? I like the scene we had to audition with, and I kind of like the characters' names being David and Sophie. Jonah? Twilight told us the title of the movie, and we felt it was a very cool premise and an interesting title, The Journey from Reception to Marriage. So me and John have decided for you to be able to play the 2 main characters, David and Sophie. Shooting starts next week. On Monday, see you then. Back at home, Joe and Greema were with the other Joe and Greema. So this is Tilly's friend Greema. The Greema and Joe at our school, and then Greema Robertson, Greema Shershat and Joe Sampala, and Greema Robertson and Joe Robertson. So both of the Joes in this story, and both of the Greemas in this story. That's why I said, at home, Joe and Greema were with the other Joe and Greema, so you don't get confused why there's 2 Joes and there's 2 Greemas. Getting ready to go to the new Unchained Valentino's to pick up Joe and Greema's Gordon school uniform for their first day at Gordon's. While they were out, Jonah, Tilly and Twilight had just got back from where the movie was being filmed when a portal opened, and out of the portal came Hamar, George, Finn Owen, David Critton, Martha Joe, Rainbow Reality, Applejack Pink Pie, Fluttershy, Freezebait, Sunset Shimmer, Starlight Glimmer, Spy Shake, Night Shift, Chuck Hacken, Gwither Buckler, Screwball, Cozy Glow, Derek, Ava, Ezra, Spike, Mordy, Flurry Heart, Sweetie Belle, Crash, Elijah, and I put Mordy twice accidentally. Ready for the birthday party of Greema and Joe. Tilly brackets. This is the Tilly and Jonah's kids. So this is not Joe Senpala and Grima Shoshan, it's Joe Robertson and Grima Robertson, who were both turning 11 the day before they went to Gordon's school for the first day of secondary school. 10 minutes later, Joe Senpala, Grima Shoshan, Joe Robertson and Grima Robertson were just about to open the door when, surprise! Grima and Joe were so excited that their mum and dad had planned a surprise birthday party behind their backs. After the party, Joe and Grima went to bed while everyone else, apart from obviously Jonah and Tilly, went home. The next morning, it was officially the day that Joe and Grima were starting their first day at Gordon's school. And this is where we basically do the summary from the year of Joe and Grima's experience in year 7 to year 13, because they stayed for sixth form at Gordon's. The first year at Gordon's for Joe and Grima was great. They had made new friends and they enjoyed it, apart from practicing marching. The second year at Gordon's for Joe and Grima was just as good, where they kept their friendship strong and had a blast. The third year at Gordon's for Joe and Grima was amazing. They enjoyed their Cologne trip and they kept their friendship strong again. The fourth year at Gordon's was for Joe and Grima was still great, but nothing really happened to them in year 10. The fifth year at Gordon's for Joe and Grima was also good. They liked their prom night very much. The sixth year at Gordon's and first year in sixth form for Joe and Grima was splendid, because they had a lot of fun with their friends. The final year at Gordon's and second year in sixth form was the best year yet, because for the last 2 weeks at school they were just because for the last 2 weeks at school there were just fun and games. Their time at Gordon's was enjoyable, and they had decided to go to the new West End Community College, where a lot of their Gordon's school friends decided to go, and Tilly and Jonah had both gotten a job there because they were the founders of West End Community College, and they gave themselves the job of teaching people the most important thing of all. Love. And that's just how I wanted to end it, because it's been a lovely story. It's been lovely writing these stories, and it's been lovely producing them to you. But that does just mean heads of the West End Community College. And that is a wrap for the end of an era. I'm scrapping this one up. This is the first try of the final page. I did the second try. So that's going to be it for these 3 end of an era videos. We are going to quickly, we're not going to read the story out in here, but this is who I've got so far in School Camp Horror Story Tale 2, Angela's Revenge. By the way, if anyone at school is watching this video, if you can please tell me who from this school I'm missing out of the people that I've already written down, tell me in the comment section and I'll put them in this story, because I want every single person in our year in this story. Because it didn't work I couldn't do it last time, but I'm going to do it this time. Make sure to put names down in the comment section. Put names down in the comment section if there is anyone that you know that I've missed. So far for the characters, we got myself, Finn McCarthy, David Gamino, Hamad Elahi, George Darville, Owen Habishaw, Scott Adcock, Cameron Gleed, Kritan Gurung, Yohan Wilson, Joe Senpala, Isaac Gibson, James Biggin, Ethan Lane, Max Tyler, Will Pereira, Charlie Heff, David Errol, Jack Blamire, Bradley Eagle, Ben Kitchen, Bobby Caldwell, George Travers, Matt Prince, Charlie Rose, Jason Kay, Philip Green, Henry Chedd, Alex King, Jacob Wynn, Fraser Roxburgh, Aman Bammer, Alfie Cornwall, Alfie Bradford, Oscar Money, Henry Sturm, Felipe Goodman, Freddie Jackson, Nimi, Ethan Patel, Wilf Moore, Harry Straver, Josh Berry, Dylan Frashoni, Alistair Barr, Oliver West, James Mills, Ashton Gordon, Jamie Thomas, Ruben Evans, Harvey Harris, Alex Early, Hamza Ben-Gashir, Robbie Thompson, Ralph Baker, George Ellis, Tilly Robertson, Grima Shoshan, Sophie Rose, Angel Lowe, Scarlett Jones, Darcy Kincaid, Rachel Limbu, Sophie Jones, Mia Jones, Scott, Alfie Burrell, Emma Litchens, Paige Daniel, Martha Ryder, Farah Chazani, Tamara Hibbins, Evie Evans, Alara Bartholomew, Lauren Kay, Lauren Swallow, Bella Chapman, Daisy Richardson, Minnie Kameen, Lucy Mokatuba, Sifa Tamang, Amaya Virtue, and Maddie Gillespie. Please tell me who I've missed out. And you know what? To wrap this video up, which is now the longest solo video on my channel, we're going to read out the School Camp Horror Story Tale 2, Angela's Revenge, the storyline plot. So enjoy me reading this and then we'll end the episode. Everyone who went to camp heads back to Gordon's school, but following them was someone very familiar chasing after them. It was the mystery killer from Jonah's story he told on the bus, Angela Baker, aka Angela Johnson, aka Sheriff Jerry, whoever people want to name her by. And she starts a killing streak, starting with a homeless man named, this is some sleepaway camp references. If you're a big fan, if someone watching this video is a big fan of horror movies, spoiler alert has been recognised, so do not watch it if you want to watch this video. If you want to watch this movie, and you can watch it by searching up on YouTube. That's what I did. So these are going to be these are the names of these homeless people and their girlfriends, and one of their friends is the same character, is names of the characters from the actual movie of Sleepaway Camp. So there was a homeless. So starting with a homeless man named Ricky, reminding Angela of her cousin from Camp Arawak, and his homeless junkie named Paul, reminding Angela of her crush at camp, and their two girlfriends, Meg and Judy, reminding Angela of the bullies at camp, and their other homeless friend Mel, reminding her of the rambunctious camp owner at camp. Obviously, all these four hobos, the two actual hobos, the two girl hobos, and the man and the other hobo, all of them have the same names as characters from the original Sleepaway Camp. And one more spoilers is Ricky survives. Paul has his own head decapitated. Meg gets slit down the back, gets a slit in her back and dies. Mel gets an arrow shot through his neck, and then the one that you guys shouldn't do, that you guys might be scared of by watching this movie, Judy was killed by a hair straightener. Angela picks up a hair straightener. This is my hair straightener, basically, and puts a pillow on Judy's head and basically kills her with it. It's a gross death, but it's a cool kill. But then continuing her killing spree. But will Angela be able to defend off a whole of year 11 students at a school in front of everyone at school? Find out if she can by continuing on reading the story, and I will read this on my channel once I finish it. But remember, put down in the comment section if I missed anyone out put down in the comment section if I missed anyone out while reading the names of Gordon school students. But until next time, this has been Jonah O'Brien, or aka iCarly fan, aka Sam and Cat fan, aka Victoria's fan, aka Aaron the Grande lover, aka Gibby. But until next time, please subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell for daily videos. I will not be doing videos for the next 3 days because I'm going on a journey to Leeds while we drop off Callie at Leeds for university. And Monday morning, when I come into school, I will be the only kid. I will be alone at home without Callie. It will be a bit of a bummer, but it will be okay. But until next time, subscribe, hit the notification bell, like this video, or dislike it if you don't like it. But until next time, peace. Oh, one more thing. Tilly, will you be my girlfriend?